Feels like the first time. Feels like the very first time. Cove. I drank all natural stingray juice, brah. Your dear old dad's gonna be inside of one later, brah. I'll give her the Hamilton in my pocket. Got a lot of Hamiltons, baby. What's up, bitches? Are you ready for some more Our Life Beginnings and Always? Because I am. We're in the DLC, which means we get the motherfucking ghosts. I'm very excited about this ghost, but first is the library. Every year, the Sunset Bird Memorial Library held a summer reading program. Your moms and Lizzie were big fans of it. Mom and Mommy because it encouraged reading, and Lizzie because she could win prizes. I was totally one of those kids growing up who would read 100 books and get a free pizza. That was me. When it came to what you thought of having to read a bunch of books and then going to the library with competitive Lizzie, you loved it, you didn't care, you hated it. I loved it, bish! Each time had been one of the highlights of your summer. Your mom still brought up the time when you'd shyly made her think you'd... Oh. Your mom still brought up the time when you'd shyly made her a thank you card for letting you participate. You and Lizzie went with Shiloh before, and this year, you'd brought Cove, too. His dad had been so over the moon about Cove being included that he'd driven all four of you. You had never been in Cove's dad's car before. It seemed a lot shinier than your mom's. After herding the group inside, Mr. Holden gave you all a wide wave with an arm that had a stingray on it. Have fun, kids! Brah! Brah, kids! Kids and bras! Bras and girls and whoever's in the library, brah! Stay inside of the librarians, you hear? I wish I could watch you in action, but your poor old dad has to finish up some work, brah. Sure that you won't get in the way. Heck, I'd probably hold you kids back, brah. You bros back. There's pointedly no reply from his son over what was likely meant to be a joke. Cove's dad seems to deflate a little bit. I'll swing around again when the shindig ends, brah. Yeah, you can go home now. But if he's already like this, what is he gonna be like as a teenager? Is he gonna get better or is he gonna get worse? So intrigued. Oh, come on. Don't throw me out the door, brah. Your sister, already in full competition mode, cut him off. For once, Cove looked grateful that she was there. We have to go find a table, Mr. Holden. You can talk to Cove after, when we win. Okay. See you in about an hour. Have fun. Did I say that already? My advanced age is really catching up to me, brah. You're 22! You drink protein shakes. The matter with you? Bye, Dad. Bye, brah. The four of you watched him shuffle out of the library, glancing over his shoulder at Cove more than once. Bye, Mr. Holden. Thanks for bringing us. Thanks, Lizzie. I don't know what you're thanking me for. Are you copying Shiloh? Distracted, Cove was already glancing around at the gigantic library. I want to go explore. What? I said I want to go look around, see what's in here. But the quiz starts soon. That's why we came. Wide at the first signs of conflict, Shiloh's eyes darted between Lizzie and Cove. And you can do it without me, right? You don't need a bunch of people. Didn't your dad say to stay with the librarians? You shouldn't go somewhere by yourself. Cove leveled an unimpressed stare at both of them. Then, his eyes met yours. Cove's idea is more fun. I'll stick with Lizzie. I'd rather go exploring. The quiz sounds better. Go over to Cove, stay next to Lizzie. Well, I'm not really a fan of quizzes. Like, what's the prize? Is it one of those motherfucking, like, crabs that I didn't get earlier? Because that might sway me. I'd rather go exploring. That's where I'm gonna go with. Seriously? Yeah, seriously, girl. Cove looked surprised, but happy at the same time. This was something you'd quietly admitted you were looking forward to, and you'd still pick his idea instead. Ugh, fine. Let's go, Shiloh. Okay. Her arms folded. Your sister stormed off. Shiloh had to race to keep up with her. She cares a lot about that. Yeah, she does. Shiloh looks like a chihuahua trying to keep up with a horse. You couldn't help but laugh. Since you've been here a lot before, we could play hide and seek. Hide and seek? Not exploring? Yeah. If I'm searching for you, and you're searching for me, we'd really have to look at everything. You weren't entirely sure how effective that would be, but couldn't say he was totally wrong. I'll hide first. Oh, it's the music! Decision made. Cove took off towards the back of the library. You'd already agreed to play with him instead, so you covered your face and you waited for 10 seconds. When you looked up again, he was nowhere to be seen. You glanced over towards the way he went. Cove hadn't had much time to hide, but he was already invisible. The place you decided to check was next to Peter Pan poster, next to the fairy tale display, behind the solar system model. I'm gonna go with solar system. Your library's solar system display was pretty neat. It had all of the planets from the sun on out, and it had its own little section hidden in the science books. You saw a tiny pair of familiar shoes poking out from under the earth, so you leaned around it. Hi! Hey. Oh, hey. He turned back to the earth and its tiny moon. From this spot, I think it's supposed to be a solar eclipse. Kinda blocks out the sun. You looked at it, tilting your head. He was right. This thing was something you always walked by, but you've never noticed that before. Hide and seek didn't seem to be working out for finding interesting things. Your turn now. I'm gonna cover my eyes and count to 10. I promise I won't peek, says someone who peeks. Well, Cove had his eyes securely behind the palms of his hands. You went to go hide by the fire awareness station near the stuffed animals, under a giant piece of fruit. By the outlaw poster in the fantasy section near the toddler books, under a giant piece of fruit, bitches. That's how I roll. Nobody had any idea why there was a giant peach sitting in the corner. Really? Really? You don't know? 'Cause I know. Noisy knows why that giant motherfucking peach is in the corner. It had something to do with a book about a kid named James. You think? Really? Did it? Lizzie had said once, but you never read it. The huge sculpture mostly just took up a lot of space, but you could wedge yourself in next to it and hide carefully. Sure enough, it took a while for Cove to find you. Long enough that you've got tired of sitting hunched up. You won this round and were ready to come out. Cove smiled when you stepped out into the open. He was also glad for the resolution. Good hiding spot. I was about to start looking outside. Thanks. Pretty good at this. Just saying. You grinned back as you brushed the debris off your clothes. Nobody had cleaned back there in a long time. It's my turn again. Start counting so I can go pick a spot. Okay. Cove darted off before you even had a chance to fully close your eyes. 1 Mississippi, When the time was up, he was long gone. Again. There were still a lot of good places to hide, so you figure he was. In the old Christmas stuff, oh, that's a good hiding spot. Next to the Kid Detective poster, behind the Willy Wonka statues. In the old Christmas stuff, that's going to be my guess. The library had left all of their Christmas things out, tucked away in a corner, for months. It was the perfect place to hide. And sure enough, as soon as you crouched down and peered behind the fuzzy green man with the word Grinch above his head, there Cove was. That was so fast! Me and Mr. Grinch were just getting settled. You looked at the gigantic, frowning doll. It seemed to be scowling at you, the way it did at everybody, all the time. All the littler kids are scared of him. So Shiloh. I'm not surprised. I don't think. He's a little funny looking. Let's keep playing. I need to do good in at least one round. He put his hands over his eyes, but before you could run off again, a librarian approached the two of you. "Oh, kids! I've been looking for you!" Cove peeked between his fingers at the stranger. Us? "You must be Cove! Your dad told me he was waiting by the entrance." Cove blinked, mouth opening like he was going to say something. Then glanced down at his pink cast. It was a pretty clear giveaway. Sure. Is my sister Lizzie with him? She's taller than us and has orange hair. You're French fires, right? You nodded. Oh! I found both of you at once! That's right! She's with him! And the little guy with freckles. He scares me. He talks really loud. Come on! Let's get you reunited so we can close up for the night! Ready to go home, you and Cove followed him up front, where the ragtag group of family members and Shiloh were all waiting. There you are! She was pouting. You could tell from all the way across the room, and it was only that much more obvious as you got closer. Did you win? We came in second. Hey, gang. I thought you'd been with them the whole time, brah. I'm glad you didn't go off by yourself, at least, brah. Cove glanced over at you, then back up at his dad. Yeah, me too. A broad smile spread over Mr. Holden's face. Even so, brah. Next time you should... Brah? Brah. Cove's dad glanced around, slightly frantic, but Cove, just like always, had snuck off without thinking or saying anything. He's leaving! Cove's trying to be the first one in the car! With a sudden burst of speed, Lizzie darted for the exit, still in the victor to be mode, even for something like a race to ride in the front seat. There was nothing else for the three of you to do except head after them, pretending the librarians hadn't noticed all the commotion. Though Lizzie had been victorious in claiming a window seat in the car, you could tell by her crossed arms and occasional pout that she still had not forgiven your betrayal. Cove hadn't been happy that she'd shot past him at the last second and that he'd had to sit in the middle between you and Shiloh. Did you say came in second place? Good going, brah. No, it's not. She levied another glare at you over her shoulder. Sure. Striving to improve is good, too, brah. That makes French Fires the winner in your family. You wriggled in your seat, hiding a smile behind your hands. What did you say? French Fires kept finding me in our game. I lost. Could have done better if we had more time. Hide and seek with just you two? That doesn't even count as winning. Why not? It's not special. There's no judges. There's no prizes. You eyed the seat that she'd fought so hard to win. That wasn't much of a prize either. Dad? Yeah, brah. You could see Cove's dad eyes in the rearview mirror, suddenly attentive at his son's call. We need a prize. As a matter of fact, brah. Mr. Holden focused intently on the road ahead as though a suitable reward to please Cove might appear before him. Right. The big thing on the flyer for this was a chance to get a free pizza coupon. What did I fucking say? Read books for pizza. How about I call up a takeout place and we can have pizza at home for dinner, brah? Lizzie huffed, pulling her arms closer to her chest. Is Mom even gonna let you take a pizza from Mr. Holden? We'll see. I'll ask her later. I'll talk to all your moms about this, bruh. Pleased, you smiled as you stared out of the window at the scenery whizzing by. Thank you, Mr. Holden. Yeah, thanks, Dad. Oh, you're gonna melt his little heart! You're welcome. Do what I can, brah. But you really should have stuck with the group. The quiz would have been fun. That was the plan when I dropped you off, brah. Stay together and didn't leave the library. I'm glad for that. I am, brah. Well, there's a lot of trouble you can get into, even if you don't have a bra along for the ride. Just be careful next time. I worry about you. And I bet French Fire's parents wouldn't want her to run off unexpectedly either. Okay, brah? Us, my brah. Now, enough guff from your old dad. Let's decide what kind of toppings we're gonna get. I want pepperoni. Sounds good. Anything else, brah? And the conversation continued from there, with debates on what was best to put on a pizza for the rest of the drive. Mr. Holden wanted anchovies, and the other 3 kids in the car had to band together to explain how gross they were. The way Cove's dad laughed up in the front seat made you wonder if he was doing it on purpose. Still, the promise of pizza was appealing, even if it did have to come with a mandatory side order of Cove. It was a shame that you hadn't been able to do the quiz, but skipping it for just 1 year didn't hurt. It was worth it. The night was incredibly still. You really couldn't ignore how silent it was. It was almost eerie. You could even hear Lizzie snoring in the next room over. It was hard to believe how much of a blur today was. Summer sure did slip right past you. You flicked through the moments like pages in a scrapbook as you laid in bed. You thought a lot about what adventures you could have tomorrow until sleep started to catch up to you. Then, you heard something scrape against the window. It wasn't that uncommon for the wind to push a tree branch against the glass. Summer breezes were the worst sometimes. But the more you tried to ignore it, the louder it seemed to become. It was like something was trying to get your attention. You lifted your head off the pillow to get a better look. Nothing was there. Nothing you could see, at least. Went back to bed. No, you gotta investigate, man. It's too creepy. You practically jumped out of bed and crept down the stairs to go outside. Your moms were still awake. They stayed up so late sometimes. Luckily, they were watching TV and didn't hear the soft click of the front door opening as you slipped past. You looked around the neighborhood for a few seconds, checking over each individual house. It looked normal, but it didn't feel that way. You knew you weren't supposed to be out here right now. It was exhilarating and made you regret your decision. It scared you. I'm gonna go with scared. It scared you. You didn't know what had come over you. If something bad happened, no one would know where you had gone, and the thought of that made your stomach tighten in fear. The ease with which you had slipped out only served to make you feel worse. Your moms didn't need to be vigilant because they had trusted you not to do exactly what you were doing. French fires. You twitched at the sudden call, immediately calming down upon seeing Cove walking up to you. It was strange, and yet also completely normal, to see him appear like this right now. What are you doing? Saw you standing around in the middle of the street from my window. You were spying on me from your window? It's kind of creepy. You weren't sleeping either? Why not? Cove turned his lips up into a smile, almost if he was amused by the question. Because? Did you hear a weird noise? You should be in bed. Because what? Because what? Because I wasn't. Of course, you're always irritated. His tone was irritated now. That wasn't really fair, since he hadn't given you a proper answer the first time, or the second, for that matter. Why aren't you sleeping? You weren't even in your house. Tempting as it was to turn his technique back on him, you decided to lead by example, show him what a real answer looked like. There's a strange noise coming from outside. I came to check it out. You heard it too? Oh, look at him, he looks so scared. Cove hesitated for a moment, looking down the street before his aquamarine eyes fell on you again. Did it scare you? Yeah, it did. Me too. I was kind of wondering if it was the wind, but what if it's not? If it's a person? What if it's something that's not a person? The unsettling noise suddenly rushed through the air. Cove, and you flinched. It sounds even worse than before. You were about to agree with him when the noise came yet again, tearing through the still night. The two of you rapidly looked around, trying to find the source, but to no avail. There was no sign of an answer to this puzzle. You thought that. It could be anything, it's gotta be a ghost, there's gotta be a regular reason for it. Oh, I'm jumping straight to ghosts like it's a motherfucking ghost. Invisible, creepy thing luring children from their beds? It had to be a monster. I clicked ghost! Get it right! The thought terrified you down to the bones, and you regretted leaving the safety of your nice, warm bed. Hey, can you tell where it's coming from?
Not really.
Then we'll have to look more, somewhere else. Maybe we'll see something. Okay, let's go. The two of you walked along the familiar streets of your neighborhood, sharing the sidewalk and the small amount of courage you had between each other. Shadows cut corners and angles where you didn't expect them, distorting the features you saw every day. The noise came again, shrill and hard. It set your teeth on edge the way it ground its way through you. Cove's heart bobbed. He eyed glistening in the dim light. Stay frozen, you took a deep breath, you ran and hid behind Cove. I would probably hide behind Cove, I'm just saying. With a noise that escaped you in sort of a shriek, you darted behind Cove, using him as a human shield. Well, not that way! He's not my meat shield! He's my protective man! Boy! Cove made a startled yelp himself as you grabbed hold of the back of his shirt. Luckily, he didn't try to shake you off. Cove shut his eyes, pressed his lips together. Where do you want to check? Park at the beach, the hills behind my house. Well, I heard it on my window, and I don't know where my window is. Is it in the behind of my house? The behind of my house. Yes! That's where we're going! You and Cove ascend the hill, lit only by the stars in the night sky. The wind rippled through the grass and ruffled your hair. Without the sun's light to translate what you were seeing, every bush in the distance looks like a creepy figure or a towering monster. The noise was just as loud here as it was in your neighborhood, with just a little indication behind the cause. You kept going forward, you ran away, you stuck back. No, we're on this trip now. We're in it to win it. You couldn't stop when you had already gone so far. You had to find out what was going on. The top of the hill was an excellent vantage point to survey the town from. Everything appeared normal. There were no out-of-sight pinpointing the answer to this mystery. Without visible markers to guide your way, you suppose it was up to you and Cove to deduce the source of the sound. The hill had many great hiding places, and you intended to check them all. You upturned rocks, peered up trees, rummaged in the thick grass for anything that might bring some closure on all of this. Despite your thorough searching, you turned up nothing amiss. You were still glad you had come. You were frustrated by the lack of progress. You were wishing you'd stayed in bed. I'm glad I came. You always relished playing outside rather than being cooped up indoors. That is not a fact. Don't talk for me, game. This had been a terrific excuse to go out and see the world in a different light. Literally. Well, whatever the noise was, you were confident that you had established that it was not coming from the hill. Once you were satisfied nothing out of the ordinary was to be found on the hill, you had to consider your next step. Check the park to check the beach. Decided to go back home. Let's check the park. The private playground was empty as ever. You could just about hear the mysterious sounds if you were quiet, but it had simmered down to a whisper. Cove was practically shaking when he realized it had progressed far enough to reach here. He swallowed hard, but faced you with a determined face. My dad says, good detective work starts at home. He watches a lot of crime shows, so maybe it could be good to look closely. Is he a murderer? Does he murder people in his spare time? The two of you swept through every corridor of the park. No monkey bar, swing, or tire went unchecked. The two of you conducted your separate investigations without conversation. If you had found anything that might explain the noise, you would have brought it to the other's attention. At one point, Cove seemed to take an interest in something he'd found in the sand, but he pocketed it without showing you. You had exhausted all the possible places to search in the park. Straightening up, you mused over your next step. Gone. What? Then you realized the noise, which had grown fainter and less frequent during your search, had died off completely. You and Cove shared puzzled looks, but neither of you had an answer for what had caused the mysterious sound, or made it go away. You tried to hide a yawn behind your hands. You should go back home. The night was still as you walked home, with none of the usual background noises or the eerie whistle from before. You could hear every step you and Cove made like a cough in a movie theater. The two of you came to a halt outside your front door. Never before had it looked so ominous. You wrung your hands nervously. Would your absence have been noticed? Do you sneak out a lot? Oh, this is the first time? Not really. Lots. You were lying. Lots. You were telling the truth. Oh, game. I'm gonna say probably not really. Or this is the first time. Yeah, I never tried to do it until now. Thought so. How do you know? I hadn't seen you out of my window this late before. Again! Why you being a motherfucking creeper? That was fair. That was not fair. Though it could have been possible you were just so good at sneaking that this was the first time he had caught you. Are you worried about getting caught?
No.
He was so forthright that you believed him completely. But your dad, won't he get mad or sad if he catches you? He's never happy with what I do. Well, maybe if you weren't an angsty little emo bitch, he would... That's mean. But still, facts. You sympathized, you encouraged Cove to see it more positively. You stayed out of it, you didn't know how to react to that. It's gonna be either I sympathize or I encourage him to see it more positively. I'm gonna sympathize. That must be hard. Yeah. He and Mom do what they want. Why shouldn't I? Well, we can unpack that later. Dot, dot, dot. Alright. I'm going in.
Bye.
Hey. Good night. Alright. Buenos noches! You turn the doorknob as slowly as a clock's minute hand, holding your breath for the telltale click of the lock. It nudged open. When all that happened was the door opening, rather than the blaring alarm that you feared, you melted with relief. Back inside your house, you were surprised to find your mom still watching TV. Weirder still, it looked like they were on the same show as they were watching before you left, yet you were positive you'd been out investigating for hours. Perhaps you could use their distraction to your advantage. If you could get up the stairs, you'd be safe from suspicion. But how would you get there? Tried to sneak past, decided to walk in your own house nonchalantly. You couldn't. You gave up and had to. You just play that off like nothing happened, like, hey, how's your show? Sometimes the best thing you could do was hide in plain sight. You strode across the room in the direction of the staircase. French fries? Your moms always knew you were up, but they had no idea why. They abandoned the couch in their show to hurry over. They were still in a state of surprise, but you weren't in trouble yet.
Okay.
What are you doing down here, sweetie? Did you have a bad dream? I lied, is what I did. You couldn't bring yourself to own up to what you had done. I heard scary noises, so I came down here. That's not really a lie, though. You're just omitting the part. You're not telling the full story. Like that, those things happen. Those are things. Their surprise gave way to concern. Oh, honey. Mom took you by the hand and led you upstairs. Oh, your hand is cold. Why didn't you come over to us? I was supposed to be in bed. French fries. You won't ever be in trouble for coming to us when you're frightened. We'd much rather you came to us than try to solve things all by yourself. Her phrasing made you feel bad. The nervousness ate at you as you were tucked into bed. Your moms assumed that your flushing and insistence on delving under the covers was part of your spear, and spoke to you softly until you calmed down enough to peep out from underneath your sheets. Once your moms had left, you turned over the night's adventure in your mind. It was still hard to believe that you'd really done it. It was harder still to believe that you'd gotten away with it. Even now, you half expected to be caught somehow. Perhaps you left the door ajar, or trailed sand where you'd already swept up. You wondered how Cove's dad had handled his return. Cove hadn't been at all scared about his dad's reaction. Wriggling down deeper underneath the sheets, your thoughts turned to what the noise could have been. Nothing had been solved tonight. That wasn't so bad. There were a lot of mysteries in this world. Your thoughts morphed into dreams, carrying you to more and more outlandish visions of what might lay beyond the strange sounds. The next morning proceeded mostly like usual, though your mom seemed to be giving extra consideration since finding you last night. You later learned that Cove didn't end up in trouble for the nightly escapade either. It was unclear whether that was because his dad chose not to punish him, or if Cove got away with it. It was amazing to you that all this worked out for you both. As for the sounds that started this all, the adults around were convinced it was nothing more than the wind. For your imaginative mind, that wasn't nearly enough. How could they accept something so simple and so easy? Maybe it'd make more sense when you were grown up too. It does not make more sense. I'm still a flighty bitch.